Hey everybody, it is HBCU Gameday. It's time to talk hoops with our weekly podcast. I'm Tolly Carr, joined by my sometimes friend, my sometimes arch nemesis. It is Symone Stanley. What's up? It's the North Carolina quarter zip duo is in the building. Let's bring in our other two friends. Oh yeah, show up like your friend do. Wilton Jackson and Olivia Antilla, better known as Liv for Hoops. Liv, tell everybody how I played your theme music for. I gave Liv the starting five treatment last week at our production meeting.
It was great.
I pulled up the thank you, Liv. That really.
I thought we were gonna get a little bit more.
That really sold it, Liv. Appreciate that. I mean, I pulled up the Chicago Bulls theme music. Liv walks in. She's meeting new people, and I'm like, from Florida A&M with 1,700 career points.
Well, it must have been cringe.
Okay, maybe. Maybe. I guess so. Liv, the floor is yours. Let's talk basketball. MEAC women's standings. I think this is the only conference where it is like sort of predictable. Like we sort of feel like things are going the way they should go. Let's take a look at those MEAC women's standings. Guys, what do you say? Liv, give us some juice here, Liv. MEAC women, par for the course as opposed to every other conference.
Yeah, I think this is pretty spot on to what everyone thought would happen in the MEAC. Just when specifically it comes to the top three, mostly everyone had Howard at that number one spot. Norfolk State has finished it out and really turned their season around through conference play. And UMES, although they're coming off of back-to-back losses, they still are very much so in that third spot. The 4 through 8, people really didn't know what would happen with new coaches, a lot of new players, but this is what we, especially coming off of last year, what we would expect to see from the MEAC: Howard, Norfolk State, and UMES.
All right, Wilton, who are you girls over here, Wilton, in the MEAC that you are still putting that Wilton money on as we get to the home stretch?
Oh, my money is still on Howard. I've been saying that, since we've been doing shows, the last several weeks. I mean, I think Howard is still the main team to beat in the MEAC, and they've pretty much solidified that, especially with their recent win and getting that revenge against Maryland Eastern Shore. So I think, to Leo's point, seeing the three teams that we see right now in the standings, we pretty much projected that it would be this way. I know for sure we all projected that Howard would be this would be the conference for Howard to lose. It's in Howard's conference to lose in this particular case. So again, top three teams. This is what I expected from the MEAC on the women's side.
All right, Symone, come on. Let's get into this men's MEAC action. We got to represent for North Carolina a little bit. Let's see where the North Carolina teams are.
We on top right now. J. Cole got us on top right now.
Well, I'm looking. Guys, I thought North Carolina Central was doing it. They have dealt with injuries. One of their top players, their top big man is out for the rest of the year. He's dealing with some health issues. He's not going to be back, so they lose a big presence in the middle. Symone, I've been trying to figure out this North Carolina Central team. They beat Morgan State, but they also lost to Coppin State and South Carolina State. And they got players out with the flu. So the Eagles sitting there at number 4, and it looks like another Howard show. Guys, does the MEAC just belong to the Howard men and women right now? Well.
Yeah. No, I don't think it does until, we've seen Coach Jones, no one's really talking about Norfolk State now, considering how horribly they started in MEAC play. But look, they're suddenly sitting in third place, only one game behind Howard, and one game behind Morgan State. So I just won't count Coach Jones out. I just can't. Seeing how they've now climbed the rankings, because they were at number 7 for quite some time. So to see them turn it around, climb the rankings, and be in third, I wouldn't count Norfolk State out. And so I just can't give it to the Howard men quite yet, even though they've been playing extremely dominant. Their last 2 wins where like they were leaving no question on the table. And I also think they have the front runner right now, as of today, for MEAC Player of the Year in Cedric Taylor III, who is a Morehouse transfer.
Yeah.
What about Wilton? What about Morgan State? Like, we were very high on them. That North Carolina Central game, it's look, any given day. But that one did surprise me a little bit.
The Morgan State and the Three Musketeers, I'm not going to lie, I thought they were going to be able to continue to handle things, and they have. But I think to Liv's point, Howard is just the team that's in the spot right now. I think that as we continue to navigate the month of February, this list of teams in the standings could still change again. I wouldn't be surprised if it did. And Norfolk State, again, a team that typically is going to be in the mix when you start talking about the end of February going into March and even into the MEAC tournament. So, again, you can't write off Norfolk State yet. Morgan State, I like where they are. I know what they've been able to do, but because it's a team that hasn't necessarily had to or hasn't witnessed being in this spot in recent years, I'm not necessarily sure if that's going to fully carry over throughout the rest of the month and more so into the tournament. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw, a Howard Norfolk State matchup. And then of course, North Carolina Central, you can't fully write them off, even though they're having injuries. You just never know what happens. But I definitely think you want to make sure you continue to keep an eye on Norfolk State and Howard.
All right, let's talk about Division II hoops. And as opposed to going into the conference standings right now with the CIAA and the SIAC, let's start to think forward to the postseason. And the biggest factor that's going to impact that, number one, you have to win your conference tournament to get the automatic berth. But the second thing, can you get an at-large bid? And that's going to be determined by the regional rankings. And the first set of regional rankings came out this week. So this will be for games as of February 15th. Let's take a look at some of the women's rankings in D2. Now, the CIAA and the SIAC are not in the same region. So the South has the SIAC. And here's where we pick up a couple of SIAC teams. So if the playoffs were to start today and you don't win the automatic berth, Edward Waters at number 3 in the region, Miles at number 6, and it's the top 8, including the automatic berths, that make it to the tournament, postseason tournament, that is. Guys, Liv, how do you feel? Edward Waters 3, Miles 6, fair?
Yeah, I mean, I actually love this. I saw Edward Waters posted that this was the first time their women were in the regional rankings in 160 years. So they're
160
having
years?
That's what their athletic post said.
Have they been playing basketball for?
It might have
Basketball's
been
not even 160 years old.
It might have been 60, and they just accidentally put the 1. But I think that's phenomenal. Edward Waters has been kind of an under the radar team in sense of how people are talking about them, but they've climbed their way. They're receiving votes in the national poll, whereas Miles is still ranked, I believe, at 22 in the national poll. So that's all great. We want teams to be in that top 8 in the regional rankings, because that means, as we've seen before, upsets happen, especially in the SIAC and CIAA. We have the opportunity to have additional HBCU representation within the national tournament. So I love seeing both of those teams on there. And even despite both teams have lost games in CIAA play to not just each other. And so it shows the respect that this conference is growing and having amongst the national committee at the Division II level.
Symone, you covered the SIAC a lot. Edward Waters has really made a statement, not only in women's basketball. They were interesting in football, to say the least. It's always big when you are new to a conference and you are able to be competitive in several sports.
Yeah, and that's a big up to their president, their vice president, everyone over the athletics department, because they made it a point that they wanted Edward Waters to be competitive across all sports, and they put their money behind it. Brand new facilities, the locker rooms, football, basketball, recently renovated. Obviously, the football field recently renovated as well. So not only are they talking about it, they're definitely doing something about it, because we know the facilities are a big part of recruiting. So it's good to see a school like Edward Waters, a smaller school, new to the conference, making some shake early.
All right, so we got the South that we talked about. Let's continue the conversation with women hoops. Let's go to the Atlantic Regional, and that's where the CIAA teams will land. And this is pretty interesting here. Wilton, let's let you jump in on this. Fayetteville State is ranked number 5. Winston-Salem State, if the tournament, the NCAA tournament, were to start today and Winston-Salem State did not win the CIAA tournament and get the automatic berth, they would be on the outside looking in. They're not in the top 8. But you look at that record, boy, they got the best record on that board, but they're sitting at number 10.
You're absolutely right, Tyler. I think it's more so the fact that, again, we've talked about this too. Winston-Salem State is a team that hasn't necessarily been in this spot before. And granted, they have all the things that you need for a team to be successful and one that could be successful in a tournament setting such as this. But I think right now it definitely plays way for Fayetteville State to sit in this spot because, again, we've seen Fayetteville State be in this similar situation before. We've seen Fayetteville State win championships on the women's side of the CIAA. So there's a certain standard that's been set, even from those that choose these teams that are going to be competing in this tournament. So, again, I can obviously see Fayetteville State being there, but I think with Winston-Salem State, although everything has panned out for them, they've had one of the most incredible seasons that they could have had, in school history. If they essentially want to compete in this tournament, they almost have to essentially win the CIAA women's tournament to get in.
Fair or foul? And just for clarification, that's the overall D2 record. Winston-Salem State has lost 2 games, but one of those games was to North Carolina A&T, a Division I school. So their only Division II loss has been to Fayetteville State, the number 5 team. Liv, how did you feel about these rankings when they came out?
People just have different respect levels towards different programs. I am anticipating that, Winston-Salem will be in the NCAA D2 tournament come time, whether they win the CIAA or they don't. These can change. This is the first one they've done all season. Like that Division II, this is the very first regional ranking they've put out. So, however that decision was made, I know that this will change come even next week by the ends of tournaments, and the committees will come together and make the right decision, especially because Winston is continuing to climb the poll. They moved up 3 spots to be number 15 in the nation. And so, I expect, regardless if they win the CIAA or not, that we will be seeing the Lady Rams in the national tournament.
Wow, a 13-11 team is number 3. A 21-1 team, Division II record, is number 10.
It's sad to say.
Okay.
And by the way, before we move on, the president of Edward Waters did post that. He said in the 160-year school history.
Okay.
So just to verify, I'm not crazy. It did say 160.
Okay. Well, context matters. And the 160 years of the school's history, not 160 years of women's basketball rankings. I was like, wow, I didn't think hoops had been around that long. All right, let's talk about the guys now. We'll stay with Division II. Let's go to the Division II men's South Regional rankings. This will be SIAC territory. All right, Symone, these are your guys here. We got Tuskegee in at number 7. Scanning, only Tuskegee.
Trevecca
Nazare.
I thought it said Tarzan at first. It was a T and then it was Nazarene. Look, do I know every single D school? No disrespect. D2 schools are smaller schools sometimes. They love their schools just like we love ours. But Tuskegee being the only team in the SIAC ranked, fair?
What are they basing it off of?
See, now you're asking questions. See.
Do you have an answer?
No. Well, they're based on who they think is the best.
So it's not
teams.
necessarily based off win-loss. It's like they're going
well, we just
into
saw
like quality of wins.
We saw a 21-1 team barely in the poll.
Yeah.
So it's not straight record.
Yeah. Tuskegee is a very good team. I don't think they should be the only team in the SIAC in there. If Tuskegee's in there, Morehouse should be in there.
Okay, Wilton, only Tuskegee in at number 7.
I'm not buying it. Like I said, I know how the criterion is for these polls, or specifically when you start talking about teams potentially getting into this tournament. But like Symone said, you could make a case for Morehouse. You could also specifically make a case for Miles. You're talking about traditional teams like Miles, Tuskegee, traditional teams that are in these spots, competing for these spots. When you start talking about postseason tournaments outside of their conference tournaments. But then it's just so many, a couple of other teams that you could factor in. Let's talk about, for example, you could look at Clark Atlanta for a case. Now, granted, I don't necessarily know if they would get in, but I'm just telling you about certain teams within the SIAC on the men's side that are still competing just as well as these particular teams that we're referring to.
All right, let's have some fun now. Let's go to the Atlantic region of D2. You want to have some fun with math, guys? Who wants to have some fun with math? Let's have some fun with math.
Math is not my best subject.
Let's take a look here. We have 2 CIAA teams ranked. Fayetteville State is 18-6. They come in at number 5. Virginia Union at 20-3. 19-3 in the region, just barely at that number 8 cut line. Liv, we have seen in these polls that you just don't line them up based off win-losses. Do you like the idea, Liv, that Fayetteville State is viewed as a better team to the voters in the regional rankings than Virginia Union?
I think this is a discussion that is really up for interpretation because they split. So, and both of their games were actually close. One went into 3 or 4 overtimes. The other one was a single-digit game. So I think this can be up to interpretation. Again, regardless, Virginia Union is nationally ranked. I think they're at number 18 right now in the top 25. But, last year, the CIAA men had 3 teams that got berths to the national tournament. Bluefield State went under Coach Hearn, who's now at Fayetteville State. Virginia State went, who won, and then Fayetteville State went under their previous coach. So the CIAA men, I think, has really garnished a lot of respect from their region and from the national poll. So, I think everything's up to interpretation. For a long time, Virginia Union only had 1 loss, and that was the very first loss of the season. And then they went on that massive run before losing to Fayetteville State at Fayetteville State. So, I learned to just let the voters do what they want because that's kind of what they're going to do. And that's why we just have to continue to talk about the teams. But for sure, I think there's a toss-up between either or simply because they split during the regular season.
All right, so the only vote that really matters will be the final vote. And if you win the tournament, then you're in and you don't have to worry about it. But it always makes for good conversation. Here's something that has probably been the biggest conversation of the week. What has happened to Bethune-Cookman? They were just running through the SWAC on the men's side. But here's the thing that I want you to keep note of. Doc Bradley, the last game that he played was February 2nd at Alabama A&M. They won that game. Wilton, I know you're not good at math, but that looks like an 18-point win there. Doc Bradley goes out of the lineup. He has an injury, and then the games start to get a little closer. They get by Prairie View just by 6. Texas Southern, that game went to overtime, so it was a lot closer than that 79-69 score indicates. Alcorn State, Jackson State both get wins, so now 2 losses in a row for Bethune-Cookman. Symone, I thought Bethune-Cookman was going to just run through and just bam, 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 all the way into the SWAC tournament. They are still in first place, but now have lost a couple. What do you think about just the bumps and bruises, or is there something to raise a red flag here about Bethune-Cookman?
I think it's the bumps and bruises, especially when you get into the thick of conference play. Like, obviously, right now is the time you want to be playing your best basketball. But this is also the time where other teams are getting better. Other teams are figuring themselves out, building their chemistry. So I definitely think it's just the bumps and bruises of conference play. But having a little skid right now when we're getting closer to the conference tournament, not the best time to go on a little skid.
Well, Wilton, a good doctor could fix some of those bumps and bruises. Bethune-Cookman has the doctor in Dr. Bradley. He's just not been a part of the lineup. Is it bigger than that, or is it just missing one of your key guys and you find yourself in tighter games than before?
I think some of it is the fact that teams are getting better, and Bethune-Cookman is finding themselves, competing a little tougher against some of these teams that they maybe have previously beaten. But I think more so than anything, the biggest piece is that Doc Bradley is not in the lineup. Like, you're talking about him being in the lineup changes the whole dynamic of this Bethune-Cookman team, especially just from what they're being able to do to protect the ball and protect the rim. But more so than anything with Bethune-Cookman, when you think about that loss to Alcorn State, they committed 23 turnovers. You commit 23 turnovers, you're probably not going to win a game. They also went 3 of 17 from 3 against Jackson State and gave up 50% from 3 against Jackson State. So basically, Dorian McMillan, Deshaun Ruffin, Jamie Mitchell had their way with them, even though Jackson State only won the game 91-86. So I think that having Doc Bradley, and I think another point that I want to add to that is Jackson State scored like 52 or 50 plus points in the paint. If Doc Bradley is probably playing in that game, maybe they don't score that many. Will Jackson State still win that game, right? So I think that his presence for this team just takes them to a different dynamic. I also think that more so than anything going forward, they're definitely going to have to be careful with making sure that they don't turn the ball over and making sure guards remain consistent in their play, especially if he's not back yet per se. So I'm not necessarily sure when he's going to come back. I know Liv may know, but when he's not on the court, they absolutely have to be consistent. And having been at the game between Bethune-Cookman and Jackson State and seeing some of the play with their guards, obviously were able to score points, but there were some possessions that they came up empty, and some of them came up due to turnover. So there's something that I have an eye on when you start talking about Bethune-Cookman.
Liv, is it that simple? Get Doc back and everything's A-okay.
I think he does play a big part. Again, he was the SWAC preseason defensive player of the year. So that speaks to what Wilton was saying of his defensive prowess and what he brings with his length and height and athleticism. But I just feel like I said this last week. I said they had 2 close calls versus the Texas schools and losses were on the horizon for them. And mind you, I think it's better to lose now, get them out the way, see what these other teams threw at you that really caught you off guard and, ultimately had them win the game. Because with Alcorn, it was really that final possession of the game that was one of the most simplest blobs I've ever seen. And for people who don't know, blobs is baseline out of bounds, and that's what coaches and a lot of people refer to it as. And they scored so easy. So, sometimes you have to be knocked off your high horse in order to get back on. Surprisingly, with the 2-game losing streak, they're still in first place, a game ahead. So they built a cushion. I think if Doc Bradley comes back, again, we don't know the full-on status. He definitely changes things, but I think his departure has really given teams the ability to kind of pick this Bethune team apart and see where their biggest, weakest points are at. So now the road is going to be even harder. And this next weekend, they have the Alabama schools again, and it will be a really good test because they beat both teams very easily. And I know that the Bulldogs and the Hornets aren't going to want to go out like that. So we will see. I think he adds, but people, you read tendencies more as you progress through conference play.
Yeah, and especially with Alabama A&M now sliding into that number 2 spot, they will be even hungrier to take a big bite on that bone. What do they have to do, Symone? Chomp down?
Bite down.
Bite down.
I know you didn't say chomp down. Bite down on that mouthpiece.
Yeah, that doesn't sound too good when you play it back. Yes, bite down. Do not chomp down. All right, so Bethune-Cookman still in the first place in the SWAC. Are they still in first place in Wilton's heart? It's time for Wilton's Top 10
animations.
Division I poll. And I think we're going to start with the men. Yes, we are. And yes, they are. Wilton, you still believe in Bethune-Cookman.
Absolutely. To Leo's point, they've lost 2 games, but they built that cushion. I think that's really helped them. So I go down the teams first and then give the explanations as to why the poll is the way it is. Number 1, obviously Bethune-Cookman, 2 Tennessee State, 3 Morgan State, 4 Howard, 5 Norfolk State, 6 Alabama A&M, 7 UAPB, 8 Southern, 9 Jackson State, and 10 I said North Carolina Central. So when looking at this poll this week, I said why Norfolk State essentially moved from number 10 to number 5. Basically, more of a momentum thing when it comes to Norfolk State. Obviously, when you start talking about North Carolina Central slide from 6 to number 10, they had their loss to South Carolina State, and I feel like that bounced them down in a way.
State.
Yes, absolutely. And then, of course, you look at UAPB from going from number 3 to number 7. They lost 2 this past week. And then you have why I chose Alabama A&M going from 8 to number 6. Obviously, basically looks at what they've been able to do this week. They're on a 3-game winning streak. Arkansas Pine Bluff lost 2 games, and then of course they have that that tiebreaker over them. And then you start talking about Jackson State at number 9 versus and Florida A&M falling out. I think the win for Jackson State against Bethune-Cookman, obviously the leader in the SWAC right now, kind of pushes them up there. And then Jackson State right now currently has a better SWAC record than FAMU does as well. So those were some of the key things from the men's poll. And of course, BCU being number 1, Tennessee State remaining at number 2, in Morgan State.
All right, Liv. I know you don't get lost in this 6 through 10 business. You're a 1 through 5 type of girl. How did the top 5 in Wilton's poll strike you?
I still had Bethune at number 1 because, again, despite the 2 losses, again, they built a cushion. Teams are able to falter, and I think they're still, they're still leading the way across the HBCU landscape. I did bump Howard up to 2, and this is where they're out of conference, and their overall record kind of really was strong for me. And plus their last 2 wins, like they beat Delaware State by like 40 points. Like it was a clinic. They made it look so easy. And then Tennessee State, although they lost to Morehead State, again, they're still sitting in 2nd place. So another team that built a cushion. And then I'm pretty sure I had Morgan still, and then, or maybe I didn't. I really don't remember. I'm cool with the Bethune, Tennessee State, and Howard. Norfolk State is working their way up for sure. I'd like to see a few more key wins. And then I had Alabama A&M because way earlier in the season, they're sitting tied for 2nd place right now in the SWAC, and they beat Tennessee State. So that was enough for me to put them over the bump into my top 5. But again, this weekend will really be telling for a lot of teams. I mean, I feel like I say that all the time, every game is, but this could be a real big momentum shift for either Alabama A&M or Bethune-Cookman. So it should be a good weekend. That top 5 is pretty solid though.
All right, Symone, we're not done. Wilton has a Division I top 10 poll for the women. Well, introduce Wilton's poll. He has branding and everything.
All right, let's get ready for Wilton's top 10 women. 1 through 5, Howard, AAMU, Norfolk, Alcorn, Maryland Eastern Shore. Okay, Alabama State, Southern, Coppin, Grambling, Arkansas Pine Bluff. Okay. Wilton, let's get into your top 10, please, if you will.
Yes, so I had Howard last week as number 3. Now they're number 1, and I know some people will say, "Well, Alabama A&M has the bigger winning streak," and I think this goes back into Leah's point, which I kind of figured she was going to do on the men's side. When you start looking at resumes and you start talking about net rankings, Howard has a better net ranking and better resume per se than Alabama A&M, even though Alabama A&M has a much longer winning streak than they do. But I think Howard is probably overall, when we start talking about HBCU women's basketball, for sure, probably the better team just from that standpoint. Then right at number 2 would be Alabama A&M. Again, you could go back and forth about who you want to be number 1, depends on what you look at the most. Alabama A&M has all the right key pieces in the recipe to potentially, obviously win the SWAC women's basketball tournament and make a run through that tournament. I rose Norfolk State up from 5 to number 3. Norfolk State on a current 3-game winning streak, and then of course they hold that head-to-head over Coppin State, and then they are basically sitting behind Howard in this particular case. I kept Alcorn at number 4 because I feel like they're still winning, but they haven't necessarily done anything to move up yet. And when you think about Alabama State and Southern, I pretty much kept them in the same tier as well. I put Alabama State above Southern because Alabama State beat Southern earlier in the month. I dropped Rose Coppin State from 10 to number 8, mainly due to the fact of the momentum that they've been on. And then, of course, when you look at Grambling, they weren't ranked last week, but they're ranked now. And I think a lot of that is just due to the fact that they have a better SWAC record than Arkansas Pine Bluff. And then at Arkansas Pine Bluff was number 8 last week, and I dropped them to number 10 because they're on a 2-game skid.
All right, guys, I don't know about you, but somebody from Norfolk State sent Wilton a box of cookies because both the men and the women from Norfolk State jumped in the polls this week. Wilton's vote apparently can be bought. But here's the bigger question. Liv having Alabama A&M dethroned from the top spot. Do you like it?
His top 5 is my exact top 5.
See?
Alabama A&M's never taken my top spot. I mean, Howard's out of conference resume is still just so strong. And considering when you look at their losses, Howard's loss was to another top HBCU team in UMES. And although Alabama A&M's was at the beginning of the season, so was Howard's. And so it's like, whose loss was against a weaker opponent, and that just so happens to be Alabama A&M's. And so, yeah, his top 5 is my exact top 5. I bumped UMES down. That loss versus North Carolina Central really
Yeah, that was
hurt.
terrible.
It was terrible. And then I know I'm just not a 6 through 10, but I like the 6 through 10. And right now a dark horse is definitely Grambling. They're on a 3-game win streak and all their wins are by double digits. And so they're slowly creeping their way up into what we expected them to be. But, I think people will make arguments for 1 versus 2, but again, you cannot discredit what Howard did in out of conference, which did include a Power 4 win on the road, and all of their wins are against Division I opponents. I think they are the only HBCU team at the Division I level that didn't even schedule a non-D1 opponent. So their resume is very, very strong.
All right, we got a special guest that we're going to get to before we close out the show, but we have a special topic I want to hit on first. Last weekend, Winston-Salem State University's men's program fired their coach, Corey Thompson, just 2 weeks ahead of the CIAA tournament. Wow, that never really happens. You usually just let a guy kind of finish out the season, but for whatever reason, they decided that the time was now, which means a hot job is open in the CIAA, and it just so happened that a day before that, a certain Winston-Salem State University alumnus, that's where he graduated from, did not play basketball there, but Chris Paul retired from the NBA on Friday. Now, of course, it's a lot of fun to speculate, hey, Chris Paul, come coach Winston-Salem State. On a scale of 1 to 10, and give me your reasons why, with 10 being total pipe dream and 1 being let's sign the contract, Symone, I'll start with you. 1 to 10? Chris Paul coaching at HBCU that he graduated from?
I think it should be reversed. Like, I think 10 should be
10,
how likely he is to
10,
coach.
You love it, 1, you hate it.
Yes.
Okay.
Love it, 10,000, like, would I love it? Yes. Now, the chances, I would give the chances probably a 6. We already seen from Chris Paul, just as he progressed in the NBA, that he is a natural born leader. Now, I know that there's conversations and yada yada, who went to the Halloween party, who didn't show up to the Halloween party. You hear some things about Chris Paul. Yes. But what we've seen from him in his last couple of seasons is that he's a true leader. Like this Oklahoma City basketball team that came off a championship run, looking like a championship team again this year, a team that is full of young stars. When Chris Paul was with them a few years ago, all of these young stars, SGA and the Jalen's and the other Jalen's, they've showed so much love to Chris Paul. And they said Chris Paul's veteran leadership helped them mature and grow as young players. When he got traded to OKC, I don't know if he got traded or he signed as a free agent, whatever. It would seem like he was just going to go there and just, kind of have that attitude. He's stuck with a young team. But he took on the leadership role, which just shows, those skills that you have as a coach, that you need to have as a coach, is how I'm trying to bridge this together. Plus, he said his time in OKC was really, enlightening for him. He loved it. Being around all those young players, being able to be a teacher, a leader. So we know that that's a role that he likes to be in. Maybe he wants to do it on the collegiate level. Maybe he wants to go on and be an NBA coach. Winston-Salem State would be the perfect start for him if he is considering coaching. Coaching and broadcasting, we see, is at an all-time high for these former players and for these legends of the game. So would be the perfect landing spot for Chris Paul if he does want to launch a coaching career. So shoot, it might not be crazy to say it.
All right, Symone loves it. She gives it a probability of a 6. All right, Wilton, with my adjusted ranking setup here, 10, you love it. 10, it's a great chance it'll happen. 1, absolutely no way. And no, I don't like it. Where do you rank it, Wilton?
So it sounds really good. If he was to become the coach at Winston-Salem State, I would absolutely love it. I would. The chances of it actually becoming true, 1 to 10, I would probably give it a 5 or a 6, probably 5. I just don't think he wants to come coach right away. I think he really wants to kind of lean more into like maybe TV and media work. But as far as like him coaching right now, I do think at some point in his postseason career, postseason career, I definitely feel like he will coach. I just don't think it's going to be right now. I think that it's too soon. He just retired. And honestly, I didn't want to see him retire. I wanted to see him back on the court. I know Symone just laid out all the reasons as to like, with his leadership, some of the friction he had with previous NBA franchises and all of that. I wanted to see him back in the NBA uniform playing. But I just think right now it's too soon. But I do think that an opportunity like Winston-Salem State would be the perfect opportunity, just knowing, Chris Paul's roots and what he's been able to do and understanding the landscape of HBCUs. I think it would be a great opportunity for him.
All right, Liv, you got the metrics down with our 0 to 10. We worked that out. How does it land for you?
I would love it, but the first number that popped in my head after you redid the metrics was a 4. I don't know. I don't know his plans. I think I would love it though, because why not? He does a lot of work for HBCU, so like, why not? And like, obviously Winston has a great game day atmosphere, and I think him being there would just build into that even more. I mean, it's already literally, I say it's one of the best game day atmospheres in all of college basketball. But I don't know. I would hope, but I think like Wilton said, he might just want to go right into broadcasting right away and maybe not dip his toe. Usually we see them come back like a little later once they're getting more salt and pepper and they're ready to kind of just be in one place. So
yeah, I do think, ain't nobody thinking about you, Tolly. I do think
I took that personally.
I do think, will he jump right into it right now? That's the biggest question. I could see it happening with an HBCU down the road, but like immediate opening right now, pack his bags from the West Coast, go find a house in Winston now.
Well, his mama already lived, parents already lived there.
I said him go find a house.
He can stay at mama's house. It's a big house.
Immediately happening, probably not. Now down the road, we know everybody want to get some of these HBCU coaching jobs.
They have launched some careers. Okay, guys. How about this? I want to throw this out to the team. Chris Paul is the coach? No. We don't need Chris Paul as the coach. Here's a chance to innovate at the HBCU level. All right, bring everybody's faces up because I don't want them lying to me. I want to see their instant reaction. I don't want them to gather themselves after I say it. So I'm looking directly at everybody's face, okay? Symone, get off your phone. We looking at you too.
I'm trying to check in on some breaking news.
Chris Paul as the first ever general manager for the Winston-Salem State basketball program. Let him construct the roster. Let him bring in sponsors. Let him coordinate and just bring his cachet to the team. He could do that from L.A. He can work his magic on the phones, utilize his relationships. You don't have to move back home. Look, I know that's culture shock to be back home for several months in a row when you're living in L.A., hanging out in Beverly Hills with Kevin Hart, and then you got to come back to the Trey 4 and get an office at the CE Gain Center. Look, I know that might be culture shock, but look, Master P does it for the University of New Orleans, right? He's the GM.
Steph Curry, too.
Steph Curry for Davidson?
I would like it.
It's better than nothing.
It's definitely better than nothing. These are all new, though. Like, Steph Curry just signed up for that at Davidson, which is a great, excellent move. We already know Steph Curry's influence. I'm interested to see how that's going to translate for Davidson. You just said Master P was down there doing that in New Orleans. This is my first time even hearing about University of New Orleans. Now, I'm not saying the program isn't prospering, but I need to see what that actually looks like for these schools, which we will see soon. with Steph Curry invested in Davidson, because he already does all of this stuff for he got the Chris Paul HBCU Classic. He's already going to campuses, giving his time, energy, money. Like, he's already pouring financially into HBCUs. So what would make him want to do that just specifically for your school versus what he's doing?
Look, it's his hometown. It's his school. He graduated from Winston-Salem State. He finished his degree there. It is officially his school. Wilton, I saw your face. Your face kind of looked like,
I just see it as a possibility because, and I see it as a possibility because being a general manager and being the coach is two different things.
Yes.
And him being from a day-to-day standpoint, having to say, I got to deal with players from 18 to 25, potentially with the transfer portal, JUCO players, all that every single day. I don't think he wants to do that right now. I think he would have the patience to do it. I don't think the players that he would bring in, I don't think they would be ready to deal with someone like him, because he's not just your typical NBA player. He demands greatness. There are certain things that Chris Paul is gonna do as a leader that every person in this generation of young basketball players coming up, they may not be ready for it. And that's just the real deal. But as far as like being the general manager, getting a chance to construct the roster, kind of oversee who's gonna be the coach, putting the right pieces together to basically potentially build not a franchise because it's a college team, but build a program up, I could possibly see him doing that.
all right, we got some momentum. Liv, we got some momentum. Come on, Liv. Come on, Liv. Chris Paul, the GM. Come on, Liv.
I think it would depend on like who is the head coach.
He can pick. He got friends everywhere, Liv. He can pick the coach.
Right, but I'm saying if they hire someone before they can get that emotion, I mean, no one's turning down Chris Paul being a GM if he's interested, but his interest in it might depend on who the head coach is. And so I think those conversations should already be happening. Like, if they see that as a vision and a role for him, they already need to be having those conversations to bring him in during the hiring process so his voice can be included. I mean, that seems more ideal for me because, again, he can do it from wherever. He can set things up just from a laptop, do it by the phone. And so if he wants to stay on the other coast or wherever he wants to be, it's a lot less demanding of time of being a GM, and it can be a lot more hands-off than being a head coach of a collegiate men's basketball program. So I can see it happening, but again, Winston needs to be cooking that and starting that pot right now of being like, hey.
Symone's texting them right now.
Yes. So yeah, I agree with Liv. And basically my point is he's already doing so much for HBCU basketball as a whole. You know what I mean? If he converts that energy just to Winston, like, what would that look like for what he's already doing?
He can still do that other stuff.
I don't think it stops him from doing other things for other programs amongst HBCUs.
So I wouldn't want my GM doing stuff for others because it's like,
that's how we be messing
no,
up.
I'm saying like,
think Symone.
Think of your favorite team. Think of your favorite team right now. Think of your favorite team. Would you want your general manager doing stuff for other teams? Then I'm trying to win championships.
It's not the NFL, Symone. Look, you just had a coach that you just fired 2 weeks ahead of the tournament. You're on the struggle plate as it is. Symone, I told you at the beginning of the show, sometimes my adversary, sometimes my friend. She just likes to disagree with me. So, look, 3 out of 4 great minds here love the idea. So please share this. Tag Winston-Salem State, tag Chris Paul and all of his people. Chris Paul for GM in 2026. We're going
Start
for
the
it.
hashtag.
Right.
All right, we're going to end today's show. A special conversation. We taped it a little earlier. I want to say goodbye to my crew. Thank you guys so much. We're going to end the show with Travis L. Williams. He's the CEO of HBCU All Stars, LLC. The HBCU All-Star Game is coming up soon. Trav is here to talk all about it. We have a special guest. This Travis L. Williams from HBCU All Stars, LLC. And we are like a month and a half away from what is now the annual HBCU All-Star Game in Indy this year, right?
In Indy, 45 days as we speak. And so we get ready to host this 5th year anniversary HBCU All-Star Game during college basketball biggest weekend in the great city of Indianapolis. So we're truly excited to continue to show the world that HBCU matters on a national and global stage.
What has it been like 5 years to have this game? When you start to measure the impact and the mark that it's left, how it's benefited HBCU athletes, what would you say 5 years in now?
I remember like yesterday, God placed amazing vision in my spirit in October 2019 after 17 successful years of coaching to change the direction of our historic black college and university. And so we're placed in this space, especially during college basketball biggest weekend, especially on and off the basketball court. And so we're kind of seeing the fruits of the labor. And as you know the stats, Tyler, you've been around, 450 NBA players, 30 NBA teams, 156 WNBA players, 13 WNBA teams, 0 representation on our women's HBCU and the WNBA. We finally have our first ever HBCU All-Star Game alum, Javonte Cook, that played at Winston-Salem State.
Yeah.
He's on a 2-way contract with the Portland Trail Blazers. So we finally have our first ever HBCU All-Star alum on an active NBA roster. So just want to say thank you, God, for the vision that was placed in October 2019.
And look, it takes time, but that's a start, right?
Yeah, just a start. That's a start, and we're excited to continue to push that. We currently have on our 2026 watch list over 100 of the nation's top watch list players currently playing. We have amazing national scouting staff that's been watching these young men throughout the year, and we're truly excited by that. To be able to take the nation's top 24 players to the great city of Indianapolis.
Well, look, I don't want to put you on the spot, but there is a lot of scoring this year. I look over in the SWAC, man, they are tearing it up. I look in the CIAA, Fayetteville State, good Lord, over 100 points a game.
Yes.
I look over at Lane, they have 2 top 5 scorers in the conference on the same team. Like, we'll get to the ladies in a second, but the guys are putting up buckets this year.
This would probably be one of the most competitive HBCU All-Star selection processes in the game. As I mentioned, over 100 of the nation's top players representing our 48 HBCUs, representing our 4 premier black college conferences. As you mentioned, the MEAC, the SWAC, CIAA, SIAC, and our independent teams, Tennessee State, Hampton, North Carolina A&T. These teams are playing at a very, very high level, and we have some of the best coaches. They are competing. And we have the talent at our HBCUs, and it's showing to this day, as you mentioned.
Man, like, you got to, not only that, you get to pick the coaches as well. I mean, look at the pool that you have to choose from. Tennessee State is on track to maybe make the NCAA tournament for the first time since 1994. You and I looked a lot different back in 94. I mean, we still look good, Travis.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
94, that was a while ago,
Yes.
man. Wow, the job that they're doing there at Tennessee State, the Winston-Salem State women are on fire. Reggie Theus, what he's doing at Bethune-Cookman. And then what's crazy is you look at all these leagues, that 2 through 5.
Yeah.
Man, it depends on what week it is. Like, you cannot predict, like, okay, we're just going to go chalk in this league, chalk in that league. You got some top dogs, but that pack behind them.
You got to be ready to play. I think any given night, conference play, and this is the most important stretch of the season. Every one of those teams are vying for the regular season and conference tournament championship because they know what's at stake. They know it's an NCAA tournament berth at stake. They know legacy of their programs at stake. All of this helps in me being a former 17-year college basketball coach. It helps with your program. It helps with your recruiting. It helps with your national profile from the players to the coaches. And we got a younger generation that's looking at our HBCUs. Hey, I can go there. I can perform at a high level, and I can get these opportunities. That's why HBCU All Stars was formed in 2019, a black-owned sports marketing events and media company to showcase our top talent to the world.
Something really cool happened this month. David Kelly takes over for the NBA Players Association Union. He is leading that now when Andre Iguodala steps down in July. So he's kind of elect, if you will, a Morehouse man.
Oh, wow, that's big.
The proliferation of HBCU talent on the court. We're making small. We'll take one for right now. Yep. We'll get another one, and then you look at the front office and behind the scenes. Yeah. We're there as well.
And that's important. Like I said, I just got back from LA for the NBA All-Star Weekend, so the NBA is doing a lot of collaborative efforts to really showcase the HBCUs. They had Hampton and North Carolina A&T play.
Went down to the buzzer.
Yep, and we have watch list players that are there, so I had the opportunity to go up there. And then on top of that, they showed my promo video during the classic, and so that was really positive. And that's the type of relationship we want, because we want to make sure that our guys getting the same opportunities as some of our other colleagues in this space. So we're truly excited about that. And then on that Friday, prior to our All-Star game on that Sunday, we host our annual Pro Day Combine, where we invite all our NBA teams out. We had 25 of the 30 NBA teams in attendance in San Antonio. We have challenged, and we look forward. We want all 30 teams in attendance during our Pro Day Combine.
So you had 25 last year.
25 last
So you
year.
need to convert that other 5.
We want all 30 there. So we want to make sure when our All-Stars get to the city, get to Indianapolis, that it's well represented, and respect our brand of basketball and respect the talent that we have. And so that's why we do a Pro Day Combine. We take them to all the things that a lot of those other schools do their Pro Day workout, lane shuffles, vertical jump. We take them through the entire and get all the height, weight, measurements. So when the scouts get there, we're handling this information. These are the top players that are representing our culture during college basketball biggest weekend.
And when you look at it, I mean, I think it's so smart that you align with that championship weekend of basketball, because there's a lot of business that happens that weekend outside of just the games. And it's a great opportunity to take advantage of all the people that are going to be in the city.
And that's the important thing, because, we're based here in Atlanta. We can always do certain events. But I think the scale and the magnitude that all eyes will be there on college basketball biggest weekend, all the NBA scouts, personnel. And it's a lifetime experience for these young men to go there and be a part of the experience there. And so networking, relationships, but it's bigger than basketball. We a big part of what we do is I give back to the Indianapolis community. And so our All-Stars arrived there Thursday, April the 2nd. We have an award ceremony, not only for the players and the coaches, but those community leaders that are there doing great things in the Indianapolis community. Humanity, service, give back. That's important for us. As I mentioned to you earlier, we host a Pro Day Combine. And then, of course, we expose our young folks to our college admissions fair. So we have a college admissions fair, and we normally average between 30 to 50 of our HBCUs. We invite all 100, but we normally average between 30 to 50 representatives to come there and expose that. So these are some historic numbers. Our ultimate goal with this year's game, we'll tap over 10,000 students that we've been able to expose to HBCUs. Our internship program, we've been tapped over 1,000 interns as a part of our program. And then we host a social justice and civil rights panel discussion. So I just want to take a moment to publicly acknowledge the late Reverend Jesse Jackson. He has been in the trenches with us from day one, because we understand the magnitude of his presence, his fight for social justice, education, sports, and things of that nature there. So has been a part of what we've been doing from day one. That's why our social justice and civil rights panel discussion and luncheon is very important, because we want these All-Stars to understand that you have a platform, you can be vocal, you have reach, and you have respect. And so we do a social justice and panel discussion that's spearheaded by Miley Davis. We've had Miley and Jana Davis, and also Ben Crump. So these are some of the leaders that really come back and give back and pour into our young men and having that space. Yeah,
Ben Crump, a big part of that FAMU community. Yep. And, of course, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, we just lost him this week. Of course, a proud graduate of North Carolina A&T and a former student athlete. Yep. Played football while he was there as well. Travis, how can people? Because look, you're busy, man. You got a big phone call coming up. We can't give all the details, but Travis is still working in the last minutes here. Tell us about the push run. You got to pick a roster. You got to pick some coaches. You're down to crunch time in the season. Crunch time in the selection process. What's this next couple of weeks like for you?
So in the next few weeks, on Monday, March the 16th, we will announce the nation's top 24 HBCU All-Stars that'll be representing the culture. And so we don't take this moment for granted. So we're looking forward and excited to announce these young men that have had outstanding 25-20-26 season, as well as some of our most brilliant coaches. And so excited about that. And so you can go to HBCUAllStarGame.com for information. We need butts in the seats. And an opportunity, we'll announce our new broadcast partner in the next few weeks. And so we want, if you can't make the game, make sure you're locked in and watching it live. And if you want to support some of our initiatives and our efforts, we have an HBCU All-Star Scholarship Foundation that's set up to help prospective high school students that are interested in attending HBCUs, but also current HBCU students in need of financial assistance. And so we're also looking for volunteers. We're looking for interns. We're also looking for sponsorships. You know, there are young folks that we want to be exposed to our HBCUs that might not can afford the very inexpensive $25 prices. So we have group rates, we have reserved tickets, we have courtside, but the most important thing is that we need your support. So this is a call to action. As you all can see, there's a number of things that are going on across the country. We matter. HBCUs matter. Black excellence matter. Black history matter. And our black cultural experiences matter. And so we need your support. This is a call to action for you today to really support us. You can follow us on all social media platforms. HBCU All-Star Game, HBCU All-Stars LLC, and you can follow me at CEO HBCU All-Stars. Celebrating the best in black college basketball. This is an important moment to show the world that HBCUs matter.
This man might take my job. He doesn't need a teleprompter. He's just rolling. Travis, thank you for stopping by. You literally have to go take a call right now. I promise to get you out of here. Best of luck with the game. We'll be following you, always supporting you, HBCU.
Appreciate you,
All-Star
but I have
game.
something special for you.
Before you
Don't
go,
forget.
he's giving gifts.
Don't forget, you are officially a part of the HBCU All-Stars family. This is important, so representing the culture. We want to thank you for the great work you're doing and being able to tell the stories and the testimony and the journey. So welcome to the HBCU All-Stars family.
I can get my belly in this too,
Exactly.
man.
We're
good.
really excited, so thank you. I appreciate you and the great work, and thank you for having us.
All right, he's Travis. I'm Tolly. We'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.